So my version of the truth, and I think it's the truth, John Kalodner would stop by the studio every so often, every week, to hear. We're at the record plant in Hollywood with Ron Nevison, living the dream, you know, just the best studio in the world. And he would stop by to hear the new mixes, and twisting his beard, rocking back and forth. And, you know, Rockin' the Night, that was the biggest song we had in Chicago. We remember Rock Around the Dock?
Yep.
Chicago Fest. It brought down the house. That was one of our best songs. Well, Ron Nevison didn't think it was for the band. He thought it was not in keeping with the rest of the material. Maybe too Southern, too boogie-woogie. And we're going, really? He goes, nah, yeah, it's a great song, but it's not you guys. So one day Kalodner comes in, hey Ron, can I have a cassette of that song you're not using? And Ron doesn't like to do this, but he gave Kalodner a cassette of Rockin' Into the Night. Well, unbeknownst to anybody, John Kalodner goes to his friend Mark Spector, who manages 38 Special, and says, I have the song that you've been looking for. They were in the studio looking for that one more song for their second album. They heard it, they cut it the next day. Basically, the first time we heard it was in the car together with Survivor. New from 38 Special, Rockin' Into the Night.
They didn't even tell you?
No.
Oh my gosh.
And holy crap, the shit hit the fan. Yeah. So, I mean, it was, you know, good for me in the long run, good for Frankie because he got a writing credit on it. But every time we heard it, it was like a thorn in our side. And it really wasn't until Eye of the Tiger when we got our turn, you know?
Right.
But it was a big hit for them.
That went to #1 for them.
Top 5.
Oh, okay.
Top 5. So it was a hard pill to swallow. And I was not a popular guy, even though it was not me. But because Kalodner was my buddy, I kind of got lumped into that.
Yeah. You mentioned in the book about John Kalodner, again, coming in, not a creative guy, a business guy, and telling Nevison, who's got ears of gold, to change things. Now, why did that happen? Why did he do that? And what happened to those original recordings? Will we ever hear them?
John, you know, to say he's not a musician, but he does have instincts.
Okay.
He's not just a pencil pusher, so I want to clarify that. He does have good instincts, and we did things because he was the boss, you know. And finally, the most painful thing at all is when he fired Ron Nevison from the mixes. He did not like the mixes. Ron wanted this big sound, a lot of ambience, and this is the time, this is 1979, this is when new wave was starting to come in, the Cars, very tight mics, very in your face. And Ron is creating this landscape that's huge. Ron, Kalodner didn't want that. So he fired Ron, and he hired Bruce Fairbairn, which is a great producer. But you know, it's like a camel is a horse designed by committee.
Right.
You know, let's put a hump there, store the water, and you get this weird-looking animal. The first album was a camel.
Like that.
It really was. There's too many cooks in the kitchen.
Right.
And here I was sent to Vancouver to mix the album with with Bruce Fairbairn
and Bob Rock.
Wow. His second
in command. Yeah.
The dream team, theoretically.
Now they hadn't worked with Aerosmith yet, had they?
No.
So they were still starting out. They weren't there yet.
They weren't there yet.
Okay.
They had done Ian Lloyd for Scotty Brothers.
Okay.
Brother Louie.
Yeah.
Louie. You know. And I got along great with these guys. But we didn't know what it was. And the album is still great. But Ron's mixes would have been better. That would have been the vision. And of course I took the heat. I was the guy in Vancouver, sitteth at the right hand of Bruce Fairbairn.
Somewhere in America is a hit. 2020 is a hit. You're getting radio play. You still played a couple of shows for us, but you seem to be harder and harder to get, and of course a lot more expensive. I assume you went on package tours. Were you out on the road a lot?
We did. We were on the road a lot with Kansas.
Okay.
Did some great shows with them. They were in their prime. You know, Steve Walsh just killing, and you know, Phil Ehart on the drum. You know, the whole bit. Doing Wayward Son, Kerry Livgren, and we were playing these, you know, 5,000 seat auditoriums and stuff, just killing. A lot of shows with Triumph, who are
I can see that.
Still our buddies. Yep.
Okay.
A group called Zebra.
Okay, Randy
Yeah.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the three that come to mind. Oh, well, Heart.
Didn't you do like a Chicago package too, a Cheap Trick off Broadway?
Off Broadway, not Cheap Trick.
Okay.
Yeah. But I didn't mention the shows I used to do with Heart when I was promoting Don't Fight the Feeling back in '76. And I got to know that group and Ann Wilson and Nancy and great people, you know. But yeah, we were doing that kind of a circuit and playing our, you know, Somewhere in America and all those songs. But at a point, it had lived its life, and it was time for another album. And
that's Premonition.
And that's Premonition. Still one of my favorite records. Dig this. We were talking about Dennis and Gary and their jazz roots. At a point, we were realizing they were not what we were looking for. As they were Chop City. I mean, they were the best players in life. But they were great for Chase and great for the Jim Peterik band. But Survivor wanted to be a more basic unit. You know, Foreigner was our heroes. There was kind of our role models. And that Gagliardi, whatever his name was, just laid it down, you know. Right. And that's what we felt we needed. So we basically, Frankie and I and Dave got together and said, you know, guys, we love you, but we want to move on without you. And that was the end of Dennis and Gary. So here's the three of us without a rhythm section. We didn't have a go-to. We just knew that they weren't right. So that's when we flew to LA and started auditioning. And Frankie had known a drummer named Mark Jubé, but we still didn't know who was going to play the bass. And we auditioned a few bass players, and nothing felt right. So one night, Fergie Fredrickson, who
it was Trillion,
right?
Okay,
dear friend. By the way, Fergie passed away about 4 months ago.
I heard that
of cancer, and it was just a tragedy. He was one of the nicest human beings on the planet. Well, he was living in L.A., and he was at the time recording with the Village People. Long story.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's another episode.
He wasn't the guy with the hard hat, don't worry. But he said, guys, you've been auditioning for 3 days. Let's cut loose. Let's go to Flipper's Roller Disco and watch the cute chicks with the little short
satin pants. Yeah.
And I go, I'm in. So we all went over there, me, Dave, and Frankie, and Fergie, and we sat in the bleachers watching the hot pants. It was a good time. In the middle, there was a group playing. They're the soundtrack to the hot pants.
In the middle of the roller rink.
In the middle of the roller rink. And the name escapes me right now, but Frankie points at the bass player who cut a good figure and played with a pick, wore his bass up high.
Like a Bill Wyman kind of?
Yeah, well, more like Ronnie Wood.
Oh, okay.
When he played bass with the Faces. And he said, that's the kind of bass player we need. And I said, how about that bass player? So I get up, I dodge between the shorts, and I went to the band just as they were taking a break. And I said, I'm Jim Peterik. I'm the leader of a band called Survivor. He looks at me blankly.
He hadn't heard of you?
No.
Okay.
And I go, well, anyway, what's your name? He goes, Stephen Ellis. And I go, well, we're with Scotty Brothers, and we're about to do a record. Would you like to audition? And he said, sure. Got nothing better to do tomorrow at 9 o'clock to show up at SIR. The same day Mark Jubé was to audition. We had a new song called Hearts of Stone that Frankie and I wrote. Never made it to an album, but that was our audition song. No one else could play it. That morning, I showed the band the song. Ba ba ba, Hearts of Stone, ba ba ba. And there was Survivor. There was the sound.
Quick.
That quick.
Wow.
I look at Frankie and go, they're in. They're in. We heard about this new studio in Canoga Park, of all places, owned by the Captain and Tennille.
Daryl Dragon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love will keep us together.
Yep.
And they had this new place called Rumbo. And we went to Rumbo, and there's this big room, and we're like, holy crap, this is it. So we booked time. The first day we were recording there with the new rhythm section, we set up the drums in the big room, deader than a doornail.
Just flat.
Flat. This big room, but they had so isolated it and insulated it, it was dead. Frankie and I are going, oh shit, we just booked 2 months at this place.
And your sound is based on that.
We're based on that ambient thing that you hear, you know. So we're doomed. And I go, wait a minute. There's other places in this complex. So we took a snare drum and we just started banging it. We're walking around the studio, not just the studio, in search of the lost echo.
Yeah.
We're in warehouses, we're in the bathroom, we're in the kitchen. Ooh, that sounds good. There's this metal hood over this very woody kitchen. Oh, this is interesting. Then we went into the long hallway that went to the entrance. The thing was, you know, so many yards, and bam, it was just like cannons. But it was the entrance to the studio. We didn't care. We're paying the money. We set up Mark Troubay's drum kit right at the end of the hallway, looking at many, many yards of hallway.
Mm-hmm.
Daryl Dragon didn't know what to say. He was speechless. Guys, you can't do that. That's where our business is. We're paying you, Daryl. Come on. So the very first track we cut was Runway Lights, which ended up in... That's the only song that has the hallway ambience.
Okay.
After that, Daryl says, you're out of here. And we go, no, let's work this out. The kitchen might work. So that became our home. And they didn't like that either. No one could go into the kitchen when we're playing. They couldn't do anything around it. So we set the drums right in front of the stove with that hood, you know, mic'd them up. And the first track we cut was Summer Nights. And we heard that sound, and it was just, then we cut Chevy Nights. You hear it.
Yeah.
You hear the kitchen. It's the same sound that followed us for that album and Eye of the Tiger. Wow. You hear that same snap. Still the best drum sound I've heard.
It's funny because you hear these stories from the inside, the fly's view of the wall, and now when you listen to those songs, those albums, these people that are watching tonight are going to say, I know why it sounds like that.
Yes.
And those are the great stories. And
yeah.
You mentioned, we're going to flashback one more question, and that is, when you were in the hospital and you had this epiphany of this supergroup and this wonderful new thing you were going to do, you pictured it and you described it as being this great band where there wouldn't be any conflicts. It was all wonderful musicians. Survivor is steeped in a lot of conflicts.
Yeah.
Personal, management, sound-wise. How hard was that for you? I mean, the first album you had problems.
Right away.
And yet it was not the dream plan you had penciled out.
Never is. Never is.
So take us on that little journey and how you dealt with it, and then we'll say goodnight.
Wow. Okay. You really want to know?
I would. Because it's hard to... I'm seeing your blueprints and how you're describing it, and yet it was not the same, but yet you did, if I can throw a pun in there, survive.
Yeah, I did. There's a saying called, when the means... No, I'll get it. The ends justify the means.
Okay.
You do it. And I knew, no matter what the conflicts were, that this was a great band. And we're making great music. And as a songwriter, I knew that this was my golden ticket to expressing myself. You know, a lot of other bands did not interpret my songs the way I wanted to hear them in my head. When I showed Survivor a song, they improved a song. I wrote Eye of the Tiger with Frankie. I didn't hear it as the powerhouse it became.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, throughout all the stress and me being shut out of dressing rooms and being ostracized and kind of treated like an outcast in certain ways.
In your own band.
Yeah. I still could say, look, I've got a great band, and it's serving my muse, it's serving my songs. The ends was justifying the means. Not every band is the Ides of March, okay?
Right.
I'm reading the Eagles' life story now.
Oh, talk about conflict.
And yet, sometimes, you know, that little grain of sand creates the pearl.
Yeah.
You know, and we were a pearl. You know, no matter what, we laid our egos on the outside the door, and we made great music. That's why I stayed with it. That's why I didn't care if I won popularity contests within the band. It was a hard pill to swallow, especially because I was a guitar player. I was a singer in Survivor, in Ides of March.
Ides of March.
Suddenly I was not. Okay.
But you were originally supposed to be the singer in Survivor, and then you did the dual vocals.
Right.
And suddenly it was all Dave and very little Jim.
And that was the controversy, and that was the biggest pill to swallow. Frankie had a vision of Survivor with one singer. And his guitar playing would not allow another guitar player to be on stage. Gradually, through dirty looks and glances, I knew I was best on the piano. And to keep the peace, I became the keyboard guy. It was a good decision in many ways.
And it was a time, too. 80s, everyone was doing keyboard leads.
Yeah.
So you picked the right time to do that.
I did. But I was frustrated because I'm a guitar player. I'd like to get up there and kick ass. And I missed that very much. So that was another thing that was very tough for me. But again, as I look back, I go, it was the right thing. Mm-hmm. It happened, and we were very successful.
In closing, one thing that has been very constant in your life from the first time you wrote the notes of Vehicle to now, through all these incarnations, through all these book chapters, through all these ups and downs and roller coaster rides, has been Karen.
Wow.
I would like to know her part in all of this as far as driving you.
Well, don't forget, she's the gal that said bands suck.
Right.
Okay. But even though she would come on the road with me, she was not a road appendage, you know, Karen.
Right.
She had her own business, very, very independent. But when I was playing a cool town, she would come with me. So she was there in New Orleans when we played, L.A. when we did the Greek Theater. She was there in the cool cities. And when she saw the second incarnation of Survivor, which was Jimmy Jamison on the vocals, she said, Jim, I got to eat my words. This is amazing. And she really, really supported my vision with Survivor. And I can't say that she was always on board with it until then. Mm-hmm. But more than that, she never doubted me. She knew that I had to follow this vision, follow this dream. But I'll tell you one thing. When the time was right, she was really proud of me. On Independence Day, 1996, wow, so many years ago, when I did not get on that plane to do that show with Survivor. And I knew I had had enough. I knew that I would explode if I got on that plane because of the huge confrontation I had with Frankie the day before. And it's in the book, and I actually wrote a song about it called Independence Day. And after the big blow-up, after I did not get on the plane, and I told Frankie it's over, Karen and I walked to the fireworks in Pleasantdale, and I'm like in a haze. I'm like, what did I just do? I just quit one of the biggest bands in the world. But somehow I feel really good. Mm-hmm. So we're watching the fireworks explode, and Karen goes, you know what day this is, don't you? I said, yeah, it's the 4th of July. She said, no, it's Independence Day. And man, I got a goosebump that I still got today. And that became my battle cry. This is Jim Peterik. This is me moving forward. This is the whole world in front of me. This is my launching pad. And I've been living that dream ever since. And I love the old days. I love talking about Survivor. Mm-hmm. Love talking about the Ides of March. And, of course, they're still very much in my life. But I love the new chapter of Jim Peterik.
World stage, Pride of Lions. I mean, you've diversified like a great company would with your songs. And you can write everything. You're writing country, you're writing jazz, you're writing rock. Of course, you've always got your talents of vocals and guitar and keyboards and arranging, and it just seems like, as I mentioned in the beginning, that line, ambition never rests. That is your mantra.
It really
that will be on your tombstone.
It really is. I think every day is a new reason to prove yourself, and to spread a message. Sounds very corny, of positivity. Mm-hmm. You know, too much doom and gloom in this world. Too many weird people saying weird things. I want to put a good message out there. It's not about religion. If anything, religion has been troublesome in the world.
Right.
But it is about spirit. It is about spirituality. It's about believing in yourself, believing in something maybe bigger than yourself that brings this whole thing together.
Believing in the song.
Exactly.
The song is the vehicle.
The song is the vehicle.
If I don't see tomorrow, what would be left to say? So many precious moments got lost along the way, but love is all that matters. It's all we